In this next project, you are going to use a table tool in your word processor to create something called a medicine team report sheet. And this is over 2 pages. And what we've done is we've adjusted the shape of the page a little bit. We'll do that, and then I'll show you how to build a table using this. So the table organizes the information both in columns and rows, and it's a really handy tool to know how to use. So here's your document. You are just starting with an 8.5 by 11 inch document. I've clicked on page layout here. We're going to make 2 changes. We're going to change the orientation from portrait, which is what it is right now, to landscape. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to make the page a little bit larger. So we're changing it from 8.5 by 11 to 8.5 by 14. And that's so that the information that is going on to the table is not squeezed. It's laid out nicely. One thing to remember when you are printing this off on your printer, you want to make sure that you have 8.5 by 14 inch paper in your printer to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build the table. If you have the medicine team report sheet in front of you, you will have found a copy in Blackboard. You'll see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 9 columns, and we're going to start with, let's say, 4 rows. So you do that by going to Insert and Table, and you can float your mouse across the grid, and you can see that you are building your table as you float your mouse across the grid. You can add rows and columns as you need them after you've already created it. You can also remove rows and columns if you don't need them. So none of this is written in stone. You can make all kinds of changes here. So I'm just going to make a 9 by 4 table. And what I'm going to do in my very first row is I'm going to put my column headings in. So again, if you're looking at the medicine team report sheet, you're following along what I'm doing here. And so I'm just going to type. I'm just going to Cats Room DR. I'm just going to type, and then I'm going to use my tab key to go to the next cell. So name, and then enter an age, and then I'm going to tab across diagnosis history and care plan plan and appointments IV lab G. Whoops, I just went a little bit too far there. And vital. Okay, so before we go any further, if you look at your sample, you will see that the information on the sample is laid out nicely. It's pretty centered, both vertically and horizontally, plus it's bolded. So I'm going to show you a really fast and easy way of making those changes. If you move your cursor to the far left of the table until it's just outside the table and you have a little northeast pointing open arrow, if you click once, it selects the entire row. And so then you can go in. I'm going to go home, and I'm going to turn on bold. And then the other thing that happens is when you're in your table, a context menu opens up here. You can see Table Tools, Design, Layout. Now, if I just click outside the table, that context menu disappears. When I click in the table, the context menu reappears. So it's kind of a handy tool. So I'm going to select that row again, and I'm going to go into Layout. So I have a Design tab and a Layout tab. I'm going to go into Layout. Here is Alignment, and I'm just going to click on the Align Center selection, and I've just centered everything horizontally and vertically with basically one click, I should say. Okay, the next row of information is for Walter Hansen. So I'm just going to type his room number, and then I'm going to tab over, and I'm going to type Walter Hansen -56, enter, admit, October 17. And then my next piece of information is in diagnosis history. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just type. I'm not going to hit enter here. I'm just going to type to key this information in. I'm just going to let the words wrap. neck. So you saw how that information just simply wrapped as it went. So I'm not going to key the entire table for you. That would be a little ridiculous. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you now how you can change the width of some of the columns, because as you'll see, the first column is quite wide, far wider than it needs to be, and then we've got a couple of columns here on the right hand side that need to be quite narrow. Now I'm just looking at my clock. I'm at 5.5, almost 6 minutes. I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to make a second video to carry on here.